Hey there! Welcome to the first video in a series I'm calling The Iliad for Plebs. It'll be a 12-part series, give or take, discussing the entirety of the Iliad's plot in 2 book portions, so be on the lookout for forthcoming videos in this series and possibly others. If you haven't heard of the Iliad before, it's one of the 2 ancient Greek epics that are said to have been written by the poet Homer. It's generally accepted among scholars today, however, that the 2 epics are instead part of a long oral tradition in which the Iliad and Odyssey were performed from memory at various events and celebrations by bards. The origin of the Iliad isn't the focus of this series, though, so I'll leave that for another video. The main plot of the Iliad takes place during the final days of the Trojan War, a war between Troy and the Greek city-states that has lasted for around a decade. The war began because of an event that's known as the Judgment of Paris. It's said that Zeus held a banquet celebrating the marriage of Peleus and Thetis, who are Achilles' parents. Eris, the goddess of strife and discord, was not invited to this event, as it was believed she would have made the party miserable for all. Angered by her exclusion from the banquet, Eris arrived uninvited, bearing a golden apple inscribed with the message Calliste, or for the fairest one. The goddesses Hera, Athena, and Aphrodite all claimed the apple. They requested that Zeus judge who should get the apple, and by extension, which of them was the fairest. But Zeus, reluctant to favor any of the goddesses, gave the duty to Paris, the son of Priam, who was king of Troy. All 3 goddesses attempted to bribe Paris with rewards for his choice. Hera offered to make Paris king of Europe and Asia, Athena offered to provide him with wisdom and skill in war, and Aphrodite offered him the world's most beautiful woman, who turned out to be Helen of Sparta. Paris gave the apple to Aphrodite and was awarded the affections of Helen, who then followed him back to Troy. After Menelaus, Helen's husband and the king of Sparta, discovered what had happened, he assembled the armies of Sparta and requested help from a myriad of other Greek nations to go to war with Troy. If you're interested in which Greek kings and their armies were recruited for the Trojan War, all of them are described exhaustively in what is known as the Catalogue of Ships, a 265-line account of every single Greek commander and the number of ships he brought to the war. Not a passage for the faint of heart. Fast forward through around 9 years of fighting, and you arrive at the beginning of the Iliad. The Greeks, who I will sometimes refer to as Achaeans, have raided a town in the area surrounding Troy and have taken 2 women, Chryseis and Briseis, as war prizes. Achilles claims Briseis as his prize, and Agamemnon takes Chryseis. As you might imagine, Chryses, the father of Chryseis, is none too happy about having his daughter stolen as part of the Greeks' war spoils. He begs for his daughter back and offers a large ransom to the Achaeans for her return. Agamemnon, too proud to give up his prize, refuses. Chryses, who happens to be a priest of Apollo, prays to the god for harm to befall the Greeks. Apollo fulfills Chryses' prayers and sends a plague to the Greek camp. After 10 whole days of the plague wreaking havoc on the Greek soldiers, Achilles decides to assemble the Achaeans in order to find out the origin of the plague. During the assembly, it's revealed by the seer Calchas that the plague was brought upon the camp by Chryses and Apollo, and that Agamemnon should return Chryseis to her father to appease the god Apollo. Agamemnon is displeased by this turn of events, to put things diplomatically, and, after comically chastising Calchas for never giving him good omens, demands that if he is to lose his own war bride, Achilles must give him Briseis to make up for the loss of Chryseis. Achilles refuses and threatens not only to stop fighting, but also to return to his homeland if Agamemnon attempts to take his bride. Agamemnon dares him to desert, and it's only with the help of Athena that Achilles is able to hold back from killing Agamemnon in a fit of rage. He instead tears into Agamemnon in a vicious tirade and swears an oath that he won't help the Greeks fight, even if they are down to their last man. Nestor, the king of Pylos, known as a wise man because of his age and experience, interjects to calm tensions. He appeals to the better senses of both men to stop their foolish actions and combine their efforts in the war where they're needed. Nestor's speech, though well considered, is brushed aside. Later that day, Chryseis is sent back to her father, and several men are sent to retrieve Briseis from Achilles' tent. Achilles allows Briseis to be taken with no resistance, though he reminds the men of his oath to quit fighting. After the men leave with Briseis, Achilles laments to his mother Thetis, who's a water goddess, about his situation. He recounts the happenings of the day and begs her to tell Zeus that he should favor the Trojans in battle, and that he wishes the Greek troops to see what a fool Agamemnon was to dishonor the best of the Achaeans, Achilles himself. Meanwhile, Odysseus takes Chryseis and reunites her with her father, Chryses. Not only do they reunite the priest with his daughter, but they offer a hecatomb, which means a full 100 oxen, as a sacrifice to Apollo. After the sacrifice, a prayer to Apollo, and the following celebration, they sleep. As dawn approaches, Thetis fulfills her son's request to talk with Zeus, and begs him to favor the Trojans until the Greeks restore Achilles' honor. Book 2 begins in the middle of the night on Mount Olympus. Everyone is asleep except Zeus, who is thinking about the best way to destroy the Greeks while honoring Achilles. He comes up with a plan to send a dream to Agamemnon that the gods are with him and the Greeks, and that the time to make a final push for Troy has come. The dream takes the form of Nestor speaking, and once Agamemnon wakes up, he immediately calls the Greeks to assemble. Before the assembly is underway, Agamemnon tells his dream to several Greek elders, recounting the message from Zeus that the gods have turned against the Trojans and wholly favor the Greeks. He decides, though, for some absurd reason, that before he tells this to the rest of the troops, he should test them by instead proclaiming that the Greek armies have no hope of capturing Troy, and that they should pack up and leave for home. He says his plan is that the elders should rally the troops to stay instead of going home, but you might already be able to tell where this is going. The troops listen to his speech, which is one of the most demoralizing and worst speeches you could ever give to fill soldiers with confidence that they will have success in battle. And as expected by everyone besides Agamemnon, the Greeks make a mad rush to pack up and push the ships out to sea. Luckily, one man is able to stop the chaos and bring the men slowly back to order, Odysseus. He halts the rush to the ships, and everyone quiets down except one fool named Thersites, who was hated by both Achilles and Odysseus. Thersites spouts off a long and biting speech toward Agamemnon, and Odysseus responds to him in kind, then shuts him up by slamming his staff into Thersites' back. After the distraction by Thersites, Odysseus gears up for a big speech about the promise all the Greeks made at the start of the Trojan War, and that they should stay and fulfill their goal of taking Troy. The Greek soldiers, in a quick about-face from fleeing, cheer Odysseus' speech and decide to stay. The men eat, make sacrifices to the gods, and Agamemnon prays to Zeus, though Zeus is not in the mood to accept his pleas. Once the men are well fed, Agamemnon orders the soldiers mustered for battle. The rest of Book 2 is the catalog of ships that I previously mentioned. There isn't much to discuss for this section, so we'll start at the beginning of Book 3 in the next video. If you enjoyed this first video in my Iliad for Plebs series, feel free to give it a like. And if you'd like to continue seeing this series, hit the subscribe button below. Thanks for watching.